The silence in the Vain estate was heavy. It was a thick layer of expensive dust that settled on everything, suffocating the life out of anyone who dared to breathe. My name is Ayan. For 16 years, I lived as a prisoner in a castle made of gold and cold marble. My father was a man who looked at the world only through a lens of profit. He never once noticed the hollow look in my eyes or the way my voice trembled when I spoke to him. To him, I wasn't a son. I was an heir. A future CEO. A legacy. But legacy is a heavy burden when it's built on a lie. On a rainy night 16 years ago, a mistake in a small city hospital swapped my life with another boy's. I grew up in a mansion. He, Zain, grew up in the shadows of a crowded, noisy apartment. When the truth finally surfaced, the cold walls of my home didn't feel like a sanctuary anymore. They felt like bars. The families agreed to a 1-month swap. No lawyers. No contracts. Just a test of fate. I walked into Zain's small apartment with my head held high, thinking I could survive anything. The reality hit me the moment I stepped inside. The air was thick with the smell of old cooking oil and damp walls. There was no air conditioning, only a rusted metal fan that groaned with every rotation, struggling to move the heavy air. Ayan. Is that you, son? A woman called out from the kitchen. It was Miriam. She was the woman who was biologically my mother. She looked tired. Her hands were covered in flour, and her clothes were faded from years of washing. But her eyes, they were filled with a warmth I had never seen in my own home. Yes, I replied, my voice stiff and awkward. I'm here. She walked over, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked at me with a mixture of wonder and deep, aching pain. You look so much like your father. The real one, I mean. Come, sit. You must be hungry. I made your favorite, well, Zain's favorite. I hope you like it. I sat at a small, wobbly wooden table. The legs creaked under my weight. I'm not really hungry, thank you. Miriam's face fell. The light in her eyes dimmed just a little. Oh. I understand. This place, it's not what you're used to, is it? It's small. It's loud. But it's full of heart, Ayan. Please, just try a little bit. I looked at the chipped plate of lentils and rice. I took a bite. For the first time in my life, I didn't taste expensive spices or a chef's precision. I tasted effort. I tasted a mother's hope. But as the night went on, the real struggle began. The bed was hard. The room was hot. The noise from the street was a constant roar. I lay awake, staring at the peeling wallpaper. I felt like a fish out of water, gasping for breath. I missed my silk sheets. I missed the clinical silence of the estate. I felt a surge of resentment. Why was I here? Why was I being punished for a mistake I didn't even make? Meanwhile, in the Vain estate, Zain was suffocating in a different way. He sat at a long mahogany table that felt a mile long. He was surrounded by 3 different types of wine glasses and a father who hadn't looked up from his newspaper in 10 minutes. The only sound was the ticking of a grandfather clock. Zain, Mr. Vain said. His voice was cold, sharp, and cut through the air like a knife. You're slouching. A Vain never slouches. It shows a lack of discipline. Zain straightened his back instantly. His designer suit felt like a straitjacket, tight and restrictive. Sorry, sir. It's a lot to take in. It's life, Zain. It's the life you were born for. You've wasted 16 years in that gutter. Now, you must catch up. Tomorrow, you start your finance lessons. 5 a.m. sharp. No excuses. Zain looked at the vast, empty room. But what about my friends? What about the soccer game on Sunday? I promised them I'd be there. Mr. Vane finally looked up. His eyes were like ice, devoid of any warmth. Soccer. Friends. You are an heir to a multi-billion-dollar empire. Your friends are now your competitors. Forget the gutter, Zain. You are a king now. Act like one. Zain felt a lump in his throat. He had everything he had ever dreamed of. The shoes. The watch. The luxury. But he had never felt more alone. He missed the clanking radiator in his old room. He missed the way his father would ruffle his hair after a game, even if they lost. Here, a hug was a formal handshake. A conversation was a business meeting. The days turned into weeks. The tension grew until it was a physical weight. I was struggling with the poverty, but I was also starting to see something else. Beauty. One afternoon, I watched Miriam mending a torn shirt by the window. She was humming a soft tune. She looked up and caught me watching her. "I'm sorry, Ayan," she whispered. Her voice was thin, trembling. "I wish I could have given you more. I wish you didn't have to grow up in that cold, empty house while I was here, loving a son who wasn't mine." "Don't apologize," I said. My voice cracked. I didn't recognize the sound of my own emotion. I had everything money could buy. But I never had this. I never had someone who actually cared if I ate or slept. My father, he only cared if I won. Miriam walked over and took my hand. Her skin was rough, scarred from years of work. But her touch was the gentlest thing I had ever felt. Blood is important, Ayan. But love is what makes a family. Can you give us a chance? Can you let me be your mother? I looked at her. The walls I had built around my heart began to crumble. I don't know how to be a son, Miriam. I only know how to be an heir. Then let me teach you, she said. Back at the estate, Zain was reaching his breaking point. Mr. Vane had arranged a formal dinner with the city's elite. It was time to introduce his real son. Zain stood in the foyer, staring at his reflection in a massive gold-rimmed mirror. He didn't recognize the boy looking back. "I hate this," he whispered. "You look like a Vane," Mr. Vane said, walking up behind him. He adjusted Zain's tie with clinical precision. "Tonight is your debut. Don't embarrass me." "I'm not a Vane," Zain snapped. He turned around, his eyes burning. "I'm a mechanic's son. I'm not a statue for you to show off." The high stakes reached a boiling point. Mr. Vane called Zain's parents to the estate for a final meeting. I was there too, standing next to Miriam. The room was filled with the scent of expensive cigars and the cold, calculated smell of greed. Mr. Vane pushed a set of legal papers across the desk. "Everyone has a price," Mr. Vane replied smoothly. "Take the money and give the boy a chance at greatness." Zain stepped forward. His face was a mask of pure defiance. He took the check and tore it into 100 pieces. He let them fall like confetti on the expensive marble floor. "I'm going home." I looked at my biological parents. Then I looked at Mr. Vane. "I'm going with them too," I said. Mr. Vane laughed. You'll be back in 2 days, begging for your life back." "Maybe," I said. I walked toward the door. But at least I'll be alive. You built a fortress, Father. But you're the only one locked inside. We walked out of the mansion into the pouring rain. The first few months were hard. I took a job at the garage with my father. My hands became rough. My clothes were always stained with grease and oil. But I had never been happier. Zain stayed with us too. We shared a room. We grew together. Now, when I look at the city from the roof of our small building, I don't see competition. I see people. I see thousands of stories, each one as messy and beautiful as mine. I see Zain, coaching a local team. I see Miriam, making tea. And I see myself. Ayan. A man who chose the dirt over the shine. The human masterpiece isn't a person who is perfect. It's a person who is real. Ayan and Zain, two boys who were lost, finally found their way home. And it wasn't a place on a map. It was a feeling in their hearts. The experiment was a failure for the firm, but a victory for humanity. I'm home. There is only life.